Hello, I'm EnterElysium and welcome to EE's Advent Calendar recommendation. Today I'm recommending you The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth, which is the expansion for Binding of Isaac Rebirth, which is the re-release, improved, of The Binding of Isaac. I haven't played it on this channel. I have played it briefly once on stream, but I haven't played it on this channel. The Binding of Isaac is a top-down 2D RPG shooter, like a really strong roguelike type shooter, where you play as this tiny little character who has to run through several floors, beating monsters and bosses with these shooting tear effects that come out of the character's eyes, the character being called Isaac. And you have to pick up, along the way, loads of items and stuff that change your tears and affect enemies and affect whatever. And the rooms are procedurally generated, the floors are procedurally generated, and throughout the game there are multiple different bosses, and you can go on towards several different endings for different bosses in which way you want to go. And it's something that's very hard to just describe. It's very highly based on its randomization, because of course the floors are randomized, the rooms themselves in the floors are randomized, and with that you have sort of a completely variable run. So each run is going to be very, very different. The different items you'll get. The items themselves aren't randomized, but which items will show up, because there are so many items. There are 200, something like that. I don't know the exact figure. It's somewhere around there, items in this game. And all these different items do different things. So, for instance, you could pick something like triple shot. Triple shot meaning that instead of shooting one tear, you shoot three. You could pick up something like brimstone, which instead of shooting tears, you shoot a crazy red laser beam that goes the full distance across the room. You can get loads of different, so you can also get some that are pretty terrible. You can get stuff like an active item like the D6, which allows you to re-roll items. So you look, oh, I don't want that item. Okay, D6. Use the D6, changes the item. There are so many things you can do, and there are synergies between different items, which is also a fun aspect of the game. It's well, does this work with this? If I get the nail, and I get if I get 8-inch nail and I get brimstone, instead of shooting nails or shooting a laser beam, I shoot a laser beam made of nails. The game really works in you sort of discovering constantly all these different synergies between different items, and constantly having a new experience because of the randomization involved. It's a game that I really enjoy, and I do spend a little bit of time on it every now and again. It's fun to just go back to. I'm not a pro by any means. I kind of suck at it. But I have completed it to a golden god level or whatever. I don't think I'm going to do platinum god, which is the really oh my god, you spend so much time in this game. But it is updated with an extra expansion pack this year, which is Afterbirth, which includes a few new bosses, a few new items, some different level types and stuff. It's quite a decent-sized expansion, actually. And the original Rebirth was a remake of The Binding of Isaac. The Binding of Isaac came out in 2011, and Rebirth came out in 2014. And what it is, it basically went, okay, we need to just move away from Flash, because Flash is a terrible, terrible, terrible platform for our game. And so they redid it outside of Flash. It meant it moved a lot smoother, faster. The graphics just a lot more fluid. It's much nicer. And you can get the Binding of Isaac actually on quite a few things. I think you can get on DS, Nintendo DS, which is amazing, because Nintendo are normally oh my god, it's got vague religious references, and there's poop everywhere, and there's blood. Oh god, never have it on Nintendo. Yeah, it's a very strange game to look at when you realize that it is full of poop and blood and vaguely biblical references. It is a game where you play as Isaac, the child who's about to be murdered by his mother because she thinks God told her to, and she spends too much time watching Christian evangelical broadcasts on the TV. So, if that'll put you off, then I guess it's not the game for you. But it is a very fun game if you're into this kind of thing. Be aware that sometimes the RNG, because it is a game where there is an important amount of RNG involved, it can screw you over, and you will just get runs where you will be I need a key to open an item room door, and every level you get an item room, and these items are very important to strengthening your character as you go through the different levels. If you don't get enough items or decent items, you will kind of suck. And if you keep going through several levels and you need a key to open a door, and you go to the next level, okay, I'll open the item room door. But you don't have a key. Okay, next level, I'll open the item room door. Don't have a key. And this can happen repeatedly, and that frustration can be annoying. But at the end of the day, it is a game where it's quite open about its RNG, and those are relatively far and few apart, but even then, when they do happen, it's a case of, well, you could probably make up for it in other ways, there's other methods, and at the end of the day, yes, you can just play better. It's a game that is really enjoyable, and I just really haven't played it on the channel, mainly because I'm like a scrub, and the internet, yeah. So, but yeah, I thoroughly recommend it. In terms of giving it like a score, I would have to knock a point off because it does release and does have updates that break certain things in the game. Very rarely, just minor. Stuff like Deal of the Devil Rooms, where you can go and trade HP in exchange for like new fancy items. Stuff like that. There were ones where they spawn off the map, so you couldn't really get to them and stuff. And they broke one of the characters recently. There are multiple different characters, by the way, I completely forgot to mention, and you can play as loads of different characters. Most of them unlock as you play the game, but one thing to be aware of, actually, I would say is, it is a very hard game to get into. I wouldn't say it's something like a ridiculous learning curve. Yes, it's a learning curve, but also it's not your typical learning curve. You're not learning how to play the game. Well, to a certain extent you are, but you are learning what all the items do and how they interact. And even then, there are so many items that if you're a casual player like me, you're not really gonna learn what they do. You will just remember what most of them do, but some of them you'll come across and go, I cannot remember for the life of me what this does. Shrug, I guess I'll pick it up, or you can look online. There are several good websites for this, stuff like Platinum God, really good websites for being able to just quickly look at them and go, right, that's the item, and then you can make an informed decision off there. But it is a game where learning all the mechanics and stuff like that, which are not obvious and hidden behind the scenes, and figuring out, like, do I do this to do this, or do I do that to do that, is very difficult. But for a lot of people, the fun of not having stuff like laid out in front of them, people enjoy that. I mean, I don't as much, but I still really enjoy the game. And I would say this game is, I mean, I would have to say it's probably a 9. I hate giving high scores, but then again, I am cherry picking games, including games. This game came out in 2011, was remade in 2014, and had an expansion this year. So yes, I am cherry picking, but I would have to say that this game is probably a game that gets a 9 out of 10, just because it is really good. However, I think that because of a couple of small problems in the expansion, I would have to possibly degrade that. But it's sort of this area where I'm not really sure if I want to say 8 or 9. The very specific problems are, if you are like photosensitive, so you get, say, epileptic seizures or whatever from fast-moving flashing images or whatever, there are a few items, and I'm not going to show them on screen, that can cause the tear effects that Isaac, uses, and what color tears are and whatever, to flash and change, and they can be very disorientating, and I'm someone who doesn't really suffer from that, but my god, I have to look away from the screen at sometimes when you get some items that just synergize to make these crazy colors and flashing, and yeah, that is something you have to be aware of. It's something that will affect very few people, but even like most people will probably just feel a little bit off-put by it, like a little bit nauseous or a little bit dizzy, and just have to look away briefly. And that does seem to be like just complete oversight. Like, really? Did no one? Okay. I mean, on a personal note, there's also a curse, and you can get curses on certain levels, and it makes the level slightly different, like stuff like you don't know what items you're picking up, and so on. There is one that makes it very dark, and I'm not a fan of not being able to see the screen. It's meant to be like, right, it's harder because you have to like really focus it. It's really hard to see anything. I personally just don't find that much fun, because it's a case of I need to like squint at the screen, and it can just be a bit awkward. That I'm not a fan of, and I would say that it's a game that I really want to give a 9 to, but in view of the the photosensitive issue, and the fact that like the curse of the blind, I think it is. No, it's not the curse of the blind. Sorry, it's curse of darkness, where the level is very dark. I would have to there be like, I might give it an 8, but it's like very much on the edge. So somewhere like 8 to 9. I don't know. But I've been EnterElysium. There's another game that I thoroughly recommend. You should totally check it out if that is at all your kind of thing. Apparently Steam's telling me I've got like 80 hours on record, which is probably a lie. That is probably a lie. I don't know if it's measuring just Afterbirth. It seems a bit high for just Afterbirth. But anyway, yeah. If you've liked this video, if you haven't liked, not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And as always, if you're interested in anything that I am covering, tell me to cover it on the channel or whatever down below. It is currently £11 or regional equivalent for Rebirth, and Afterbirth is £8. And of course, you can get a bundle for like Well, actually, the just ticket price. Okay, so like £19. Okay, but yeah, I've been EnterElysium. Until next time, stay shiny.